Hello, what's up, my beautiful queen on the other side of the screen? And welcome to today's episode, the first episode of the Confidence Academy podcast. We're going to be diving into how to let go of seeking validation, how to stop seeking validation, how to stop feeling like you aren't good enough, and how to start self-validating instead. So if you're new here, my name's Katie. I am a self-worth and confidence coach, and I basically take women from feeling insecure, not good enough, low in self-worth and confidence to literally becoming their most confident selves, to feeling good enough, to building their self-worth and being secure in who they are. So we're going to dive right into today's episode. A little bit about what we're going to cover. We're going to go through pretty much the cause of why you feel like you aren't good enough, the root causes of unworthiness, and why you're seeking validation, the different ways you may be seeking validation right now, and then how to stop, right? How to become your own source of validation by practicing self-validation, which I promise you, once I started practicing self-validation, my whole life changed. Like, my confidence skyrocketed, and it did the same for all of my clients who are inside the Confidence Academy. Like, it is literally the key to building your self-worth. So we are going to go ahead and begin. So to start off, I want to just give you some information on like where seeking validation actually comes from. And a lot of the times, I'll just start by saying this, we seek validation to make up for the validation that we don't give ourselves. We seek validation and approval from others because we are making up for the fact that we don't feel good enough ourselves. We don't feel seen, heard, recognized, loved, or understood. In ourselves, we feel like we are unlovable or unworthy or not good enough, or there's something wrong with us. There's a lot of shame and unworthiness carried within us, and so we make up for it by getting other people's attention or trying to get reassurance from other people or getting other people's approval or eyes on us or some sort of validation. And for starters, I just want to say that if you're someone that's struggling with this, it is okay. Okay, I think that's honestly, before we dive into anything else, like, it is okay. What you're doing is okay. And the minute that you stop judging yourself or where you're at right now is actually the minute you create space for yourself to begin to love yourself and let go of seeking validation. So there's no shame here. But let's go over where it comes from. Like, this is why you are seeking validation. A lot of it comes from childhood, right? And it specifically starts when, through the conditions in which your parents loved you. And here's what I mean by that. So depending on the conditions or the ways that your parents loved you, it could have caused you in adulthood to love yourself under the same conditions and only feel good enough under those certain conditions as well. So if in childhood, or let's start by saying this, I want you to just think of the situations in childhood that your parents gave you love and gave you validation and recognized you. And then think of the situations where they didn't give you love or validation or recognize you, and kind of tell the difference between the two. And what you're going to start to notice is that there's a pattern here, right? Your parents, maybe they only gave you love or validation or made you feel like you were enough, made you feel seen when you achieved something. Maybe when you were doing good in school, or when you were doing good in your sport, or when you were behaving a certain way. They said, oh, good job, like, we love you, we care for you. You know, they're telling everyone about you. They're making you feel recognized. And so that could be one way, right? Your achievements or your level of success may be a condition that they only loved you when they saw you as successful, or saw you as, achieving something. Another way could be that they only made you feel loved when your appearance was a certain way. Or it doesn't even have to be your parents, but it specifically comes from your parents. So if other people also at school only gave you attention and love when you had your hair done, or your parents only took pictures of you when you looked a certain way, maybe they also compared you, or they said a lot of criticisms about your appearance, and like, we're just really focused on only making sure that, you have a certain look, or they were really hyper-focused on that. Then they probably only made you feel loved or made you feel worthy when you looked good or when you looked pretty. And when you didn't, they probably made you feel like you weren't good enough, like you weren't beautiful, right? Another way could be, let me think. Just like the way that you act authentically, right? Like if your parents, when you were, acting the way that they wanted you to act, if they were giving you validation and recognition, then you probably also felt like you couldn't be yourself. And when I am authentic, I'm unworthy, right? So you probably either hid who you were when you were younger because they didn't make you feel good enough when you were just trying to be yourself. So as you're thinking of these things, these conditions in which your parents loved you, what you need to understand is that those conditions from when you were younger become attachments when you're older. So this is the main thing with self-worth and self-confidence. It's your attachments. The things that you attach your self-worth to are simply what damage your self-worth. And that is because it's kind of like a dog chasing its own tail. It's causing you to be stuck in a hamster wheel. You're always going to be attached to specific things that you feel like, when I am under those conditions, when I am pretty enough in the eyes of others, or when I achieve things, or when I have that thing that I attach my self-worth to, then I am good enough. And those conditions from childhood literally transfer as attachments into adulthood. And so in adulthood, you feel like you need those attachments. You need to fit under those conditions to be enough. Okay, so if appearance was something for you when you were younger, right now you may attach your self-worth to your appearance. And you may be in this constant hamster wheel of like, oh my God, I need to look pretty enough. I need to make sure that I spend hours getting ready. I need to have a perfect body. I need to make sure all this stuff for other people, to look pretty enough for him, or to look pretty enough for, other people, or on Instagram, or I can't post this because it's not pretty enough, right? It's going back to those conditions. Another way that this shows in adulthood, again, is if it was like the achievement or success thing for you, right? So if when you were younger, your parents were like super focused on your success, then when you're older now, you're probably in your career and you have this feeling of like, I will be good enough when I make this amount of money. I will be good enough when I finally get that degree. I will be good enough when I finally achieve that goal that I want to achieve. And it's again going back to those conditions. And what you're doing here is basically attaching your self-worth to your achievements. But again, it's like a hamster wheel, because you know what's going to happen when you get those achievements? You're still not going to feel enough. And you're going to look for the next thing to make up for the fact that you don't feel enough. The next goal, the next amount of money, the next achievement. And you never actually just feel enough as you are right now in this moment. And that is the major consequence of these attachments, of these conditions from when you were younger. And again, I want to point out that first, it's not only your parents. Another thing that could have caused these conditions and attachments is, of course, the experiences you went through. Your experiences are literally what program you to feel insecure or believe a certain thing about yourself. So if you had experiences in relationships or at work or with your friends where they made you feel like you were included if you did something or if you looked a certain way. Like, I know for me when I was younger, like I felt like I would only fit in if I, did the things that everyone was doing. And so it made me feel like I needed to do those things to be enough, to be accepted, to be included. And so, that is another kind of way, is just through your experiences and the programming and the things that you went through that can cause you to feel like you're not good enough, right? That can invalidate you. And so the consequences of that is basically that now, after all of those things, you just don't feel enough as you are. And you're constantly on this hamster wheel, this exhausting hamster wheel of feeling like you need something to be good enough, something outside of yourself. You're outsourcing your confidence, outsourcing your worth. And of course, that can make you feel like shit. Like, I have been there before, and so many of my clients have been there before. Because honestly, it's kind of like you don't mean to do it to yourself, but it's just like almost like automatic. And it is automatic because of literal programming through your experiences and just, everything that happened, right? So A big part is, first of all, recognizing the ways that you seek validation. And this is the next thing that I'm going to get into. So you can just start as, before I say the list, just first of all, notice the ways that you think you're seeking validation in your life and tell me if any of this relates to you, okay? So the first is asking for constant reassurance. So if you're constantly asking, like, like, are you mad at me? Like, is this okay? Like, are you upset with me right now? Like, should I do this? Like, what else can you ask for reassurance? Like, should I wear this? That is one way that you could be seeking validation, right? Because there's no issue with reassurance. Of course, everyone needs reassurance. Like, it's in human nature. And it's a part of us connecting with each other, okay? Validation is not bad in and of itself. It's helpful. Naturally, we want to feel validated, and it can be an amazing, beautiful thing, especially when it's given to others. The only thing is when we search for it and when we're in a constant mode of seeking for validation because we don't know how to give it to ourselves, that's when it can become, of course, this constant feeling of not being good enough. So one is seeking, jeez. One is, I just sounded like Mickey Mouse there. Like, I would like to re-edit that and just go back. Okay, so one is asking for constant reassurance. We need to have water. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, so the next is pleasing others. Okay, so my people-pleasing girlies, this could be a way that you're seeking validation from other people. If you're constantly, because this goes back to that authenticity, right? If other people didn't make you feel valid when you were just being yourself, especially in your younger years or just throughout your life, you're not going to feel valid in yourself. You're not going to feel safe to feel yourself. And so you're constantly going to feel this need to please others or fit in to create that feeling of belonging and acceptance. And again, you're outsourcing that feeling because you're not accepting or validating yourself. The next is changing or enhancing your appearance. So again, if the whole appearance thing is the thing for you, I know that it was for me for a while. Like, I felt like I had to go on like crazy diets, or like I felt like I couldn't go out wearing a certain thing because if I did, then a certain person wouldn't like me, and I had to like look a certain way for a guy's attention or to get validation and approval from a guy, because I would see that that's how other girls got attention and validation from guys and got into relationships, which, by the way, is not true. I actually had a conversation with one of my clients about this, and she was just like, you know what, Katie, my whole life I've been seeking validation and attention from guys. I always feel like I have to wear a certain thing or look a certain way so I can get a guy's attention. And I was like, like, tell me more. And she's like, well, you know what? All my life, I always saw other girls get attention and approval and validation from guys and get into relationships with guys by doing those things. And I said, well, there's a difference between getting validation and attention from a guy, and there's a difference between like actual love. Right? And so I think we have to, as women, make that difference. Like, as women, we have to make the difference known. Because there's a big difference between getting validation and attention from a guy and, a guy giving you attention and love and recognition, and a guy that actually loves you for who you are. There is a difference between attention and love. And attention is not love. And if we keep making attention love, then the only way that you're going to think that you can get love is through attention. And you're going to try to make yourself known and wear certain things and do the thing to get that attention from a guy. But attention doesn't equal love. And you know what? That's something that so many of us experience. And it's, to an extent, a little bit sad. But because you know what, you kind of grow up feeling like, you know what, all of these girls are getting these guys because of their bodies. All of these girls are getting these guys because they're getting their attention. And, after so long from, of getting their attention and stuff like that, you kind of feel this need of like, you know what, well, I guess I have to do things to get their attention too. If I want to get into a relationship, let me start dressing this way. Let me start acting this way. Let me start trying to impress them or change things about myself for them. And that's like literally where we mess up, because attention isn't love. Moving past this, the next thing that could be a way that you're seeking validation could be proving yourself to others. So if you're in conversation with people and you feel this need of like needing to one up them or needing to like say something or like needing to defend yourself, you find yourself like getting defensive, or proving yourself or showing off, or like to your parents, like saying certain things about where you're at in life, or telling other people about where you're at in life, or posting things, even if you don't even want to admit it, like that is a way that you're seeking validation. And a lot of the times that just creates this need for you to get recognized by other people rather than recognizing yourself. And the last thing is doing things for attention. So if you're like, this is something that I used to struggle with because I didn't really get attention as a child or in the way that I needed to receive it, right? So a lot of times like I would, which is interesting because now of course I'm posting and whatnot. But of course now I do it from a place of, trying to help. But there were times before I would just do things for attention. Like I would post things for attention or certain, messages on my Snapchat for attention. And again, that is something that's okay, but when we are constantly seeking attention from others, there's definitely a need where we need to give attention to ourselves. So that's another way. So if we don't fix these things, if we don't stop seeking validation, we're going to end up in a constant chase, because it's like a dog chasing its own damn tail, okay? A dog is just going around and going about and keep going, and trying to get his tail. But the tail is on him, okay? And it's like us. We constantly look for that thing to make us feel good enough. We look for that thing to make us feel confident. We look for that person's attention and approval and reassurance and blah, blah, blah. But like the confidence is already within us. The feeling of enoughness is already within us. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that now, which is amazing, which is through self-validation. So self-validation has been coming up a lot recently on the internet. And it's basically the process of like validating your own emotions, your own experiences, and giving yourself the recognition, reassurance, making yourself feel seen, and meeting your own needs so you don't have to use others to meet your own needs. And so a few ways, well, first of all, the reason again why this is important is because we need to validate ourselves rather than outsourcing it. And when this happens, when you start self-validating, that is the moment that everything changes in your life. Because honestly, all of the time that you spend searching for validation and searching for approval and like wondering, is this person like gonna see my story? Like, are they gonna text me back? Like, what do they think of me? Like, what do they think of what I'm doing right now with myself? And you're like looking for someone to tell you good job or you're pretty or whatever the case is. All of that time can just be spent with you doing the things that you need to do for your life. That's a lot of damn time that goes to like doing the most, And it's difficult at the beginning. It feels difficult at the beginning to kind of stop. But I just want to remind you, first of all, this is something else that I teach my clients. If you say things are going to be difficult, they're going to be difficult. If you say, oh, but it's going to be so hard to stop seeking validation, it's just so hard to feel confident, it's going to be hard. But if you say, I'm learning how to feel good enough, and I'm learning and I'm taking the steps to become confident, then yes, it will happen. So we're going to go over some rules to start self-validating that are going to transform your life, transform your confidence, and help you feel good enough. The first is to give yourself the validation that you seek. Give yourself the damn validation that you seek, okay? And here's what I want you to do. Here's what we're going to do to help you do that. So I want you to ask yourself, first of all, what kind of validation am I seeking? Right? Am I seeking approval? Am I seeking to feel accepted? Am I seeking to hear good job? Am I seeking to feel beautiful? Am I seeking acceptance? Am I seeking Am I seeking love? Am I seeking reassurance? Am I seeking affection? Am I seeking celebration, recognition, right? Once you have that in mind, what I want you to do is ask yourself, how do I want to feel once I receive that validation? And usually what you're going to notice is you're like, well, I want to be recognized, right? That's the validation that I want. I want other people to see how hard I'm working. I want my parents to notice my hard work. And I want people to tell me good job and you're so hardworking and all these different things. And the next thing you're going to notice when you ask yourself, well, how do I want to feel, is you're going to say, and allow this to be an emotion. If you can name a specific emotion, I want to feel seen. I want to feel like recognized. I want to feel important. I want to feel special. And once you have that feeling, give that feeling to yourself. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel celebrated. Allow yourself to feel important. Affirm out loud to yourself in a mirror or wherever you are, I'm important. I'm special. I see how hard I'm working. Wherever you are, whenever you seek that validation, whenever you feel like posting something to feel celebrated or to get that approval, repeat that to yourself and allow yourself to feel celebrated. However feeling celebrated feels to you in your body. If it feels warm, if it feels relaxed, like how would it feel if you felt important? How would it feel in your body? Would you relax? Would you like get excited? Like whatever that feeling is, like feel that now. Like allow yourself to get tingly. What would you say if you felt celebrated, if you felt important? You'd be like, yeah, woo! I'm a bad bitch. I just did that shit. Let the sound come out. Let the feeling occur as if it's here in this moment. Another way that you can do this is if you're seeking validation from a specific person, right? Like maybe it's from your parents. You can ask yourself, what would I need that person to tell me in order to feel validated? That's a good question. I just thought of that. What would I need that person to tell me in order to feel validated? Maybe good job. You did it. You got through everything. Whatever that is, say that to yourself. You can do this with any kind of validation. So if you're seeking love and attention from people, right? If you're like trying to put yourself out there or like be pretty enough or whatever the case is, and ask yourself, okay, well, how do I want to feel once I get that validation, right? Well, I want to feel beautiful, attractive, pretty enough. Okay, so give yourself that feeling. Look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you're pretty enough, you're beautiful enough. And if you feel that it's hard to say those things to yourself, first of all, it's at the beginning going to feel uncomfortable because you've never done this before. You've never learned how to validate yourself. You've always been outsourcing it. So first of all, no, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And second of all, what you can do is you can say something like before how I was saying, say, I'm learning how to feel beautiful on my own. I'm learning that it's possible for me to feel pretty. And then ask yourself, well, how would feeling pretty feel like? It would feel like, I don't know, it would feel like, it'd feel warm and it'd feel, it'd feel happy and it'd feel joyful in my heart. And, it would make me walk around everywhere with a big smile. Well, do that. Give that moment to yourself. And what would you need someone to say to you, right? Well, I need someone to say that I look pretty today or that your outfit is amazing. Give that to yourself. Say that to yourself. And through that process, what you're going to find is that validation that you were seeking was within you the whole time, because it was never the validation that you were seeking. It was the feeling that validation was going to give you. And you can give yourself a feeling, right? Like right now, if you think of a memory in your life where you were extremely happy, like think of a memory right now where you're extremely happy. Boom, you're going to automatically feel a little bit of joy, right? We have the power to do this with our imagination, with ourselves. And so it's just about getting into the state of that. And again, this is like why I love not only talking about this, but practicing this with my clients and guiding them through visualizations and meditations where they can like heal and cry and like literally give themselves and affirm to themselves the validation that they were seeking, and create that feeling for themselves. And I teach them exactly how they can do that for their situation. That is literally everything. So the next way that you can stop seeking validation is to actually stop invalidating yourself. I'm going to repeat that. The way that you're going to stop seeking validation, and this is so important, is by not invalidating yourself. So if you're someone who's been chronically invalidated, meaning you were criticized, you were bullied, other people made you feel like you weren't good enough, then you're always in this mode and you've always learned to invalidate yourself. And you may do this through a couple of different ways. You may invalidate your experience, right? You may say, you know what, like, I shouldn't have done that. Or, you know what, I shouldn't be feeling this way right now. Or I'm overreacting, or I'm being too much, or I'm too sensitive. Or anytime you feel a certain emotion, you're like, you know what, I'm overreacting. Or you suppress it, or you try to escape it. All that is doing is only damaging your self-worth because you're invalidating. You're like crushing your own emotions and your own experience. And you're basically telling yourself, hey, you're not seen, you're not heard, you're not understood, you're not important. Fuck your experience. Fuck your feelings. And like, that's rude, right? Think about it like this. If someone were to come up to you, like one of your best friends, and she was like, I'm going through such a hard day right now. Like, I feel, like I'm being too much. And, maybe I'm, overreacting and I'm feeling like this and I'm feeling like that. Like, you wouldn't just tell her, like, you're being too much. Yeah, you're right. Like, you shouldn't be experiencing that. Like, you would hug her and just be like, it's okay. Everyone goes through that sometimes. And it's just interesting because naturally we do that to others, but we don't do it to ourselves. So stop invalidating yourself. Instead, validate yourself by allowing yourself to go through those experiences, go through those emotions. Allow yourself to feel your feelings. The next time you feel anxiety, you feel the unworthiness, sit with it. Feel it. Don't run away from it. Allow it to be there without any judgment, right? Because that part of you that is invalidated and unworthy is coming up right now. And that part of you is from a past experience where a part of you was hurt or misunderstood. And that part of you needs love. Okay, they need love. So allow yourself to feel that. Because when you allow yourself to feel your feelings, especially the difficult ones, you heal those parts of yourself that you often reject. Another way that you can do this, of course, is by every time that you are feeling a feeling, you can literally say out loud, I'm allowed to feel this way. I am having this experience. This is okay. Or another thing, if you're having a situation with another person, you can say, I am allowed to be upset at them. I am allowed to feel this way about this situation. And what that's going to start doing is as you're telling yourself those things, you're going to feel like, okay, I can put myself first. I'm validating myself now. And that's going to skyrocket your confidence and your self-trust, and stop making you feel like you aren't good enough because you're making yourself feel enough by making yourself feel seen, heard, and understood. The next thing that you can do is make sure that you are focusing on private victories. So a lot of the times when we are seeking validation, we are always looking for other people to join in or see or experience or take part in our own experiences, right? So like if you have a win or if you did really good at something or if you look really pretty someday, you're always on this mode of like, I keep saying mode. If you're always on this kind of like vibe, but I'm looking for another word now. But you're always looking for other people to like see you, okay, and celebrate you, which is not necessarily bad, but you also have to learn to celebrate yourself and celebrate your own wins. And whenever you do get a win, keep it private. Like whenever you do really good in something, whenever you look really, really pretty, don't post it. Whenever you achieve something, don't tell anyone. And notice how that feels. It feels lonely at first. It will feel lonely at first. But over time, if you practice validating yourself through that, right, giving yourself the validation that you were seeking, you're going to see, oh, shoot, I can create the feeling that I was once seeking. And that is important, and that is huge, because here's the thing. If you keep expecting people, or here's the thing, if you keep waiting on other people to give you validation when you achieve something, or when you look really pretty, or, when you're popping off, or whatever the case is, then you're creating a dependency on other people, right? To feel validated, to feel loved, to feel celebrated, to feel enough. And you know what happens when you create a dependency, and when you achieve something, or when you look pretty and someone isn't there for you, and someone isn't telling you that you look pretty, or when someone isn't celebrating you, you feel worthless. You feel like you aren't enough because you're so attached to other people's validation, right? That when you have the moment that you are celebrated and people tell you, oh my God, you look so pretty, you're doing amazing right now in life, you feel like this high. And when you don't have that, it comes crashing down. And so what becoming your own source of validation does, it basically makes you like your own source through everything. When you go through those highs, you feel validated, you celebrate yourself, you love yourself. And when you go through the lows, you still feel enough because you're still validating yourself. So that's the freaking point in becoming your own source of validation. It's to be able to go through the thick and the thin in life, the ups, the downs, the ebbs, and the flows, and to know that you're enough through every single damn experience, through the criticisms and through the compliments, through the failures and through the successes. You are enough through every single moment. And that is the feeling that you need to give to yourself, and that you need to stop seeking in other people. Because sometimes other people aren't there. Sometimes that guy isn't going to look at your story. Sometimes your parents aren't going to be there to celebrate you. And sometimes you're going to go through the freaking trenches in life. I know this was me when I was starting my business. You're going to go through the trenches in life trying to start something for yourself. And there's going to be no one clapping. There's going to be no applause. Okay? So stop being like Lady Gaga. Stop trying to live for the applause. Okay? And live for you, girl. Okay? Validate yourself. Sweetie. Next up. I can't with myself. You guys, I got so into that, okay? The next thing that you need to do is you need to make self-validation like a practice. You need to make it a practice to step into the version of your most confident self. And the way that you can do this, I will share with you pretty much what I teach my clients how to do, and what I give them. I give them practices that they can do to become their most confident selves and to show up as themselves, as a version of themselves that loves themselves, validates themselves, and is secure in themselves. And I'll give you a couple ways that you can do this. Number one is through journaling, okay? If you have not started journaling, journal. And you can use the same kind of ways that we talked about here. So whenever you're seeking validation, answer the journal prompt, what words do I need to hear right now? What is the validation that I want to receive right now? And write a letter to yourself or journal about the words that you need to hear. Or maybe journal about your emotions. Maybe you're feeling invalidated and you need to validate yourself by making yourself and your emotions feel seen, which is okay. And you can literally, in your journal, just write about how you feel. And it doesn't have to look a certain way. I think that's the thing with journaling. We always think, oh, but it has to look a certain way and I need a certain prompt and all these different things. No, you don't. Let it come out. In the cuss words and poetry, however it wants to come out, let it come out. And that will give yourself space to just be authentic and recognize yourself in the way that feels authentic to you. The next way you can do that is through visualization. So really quickly, close your eyes and imagine a version of you that did feel enough. Imagine a version of you that is confident. Now I want you to ask yourself, what does she do consistently? And this is going to be different for everyone. What does she do consistently that allows her to feel confident that you're not currently doing? What are the things that she's doing that make her feel validated? What are the promises that she keeps to herself? What are the things that she says to herself every day? How does she speak to herself? How does she treat herself? What you're going to start doing is you're going to start noticing, oh, shoot, my most confident self does this that I'm not doing right now. My most confident self does this that I'm not doing right now. And whatever those things are, do them, right? Because a part of making yourself feel seen is doing the things that you need to do. Because there's desires within you that need to be seen, right? Maybe you have a desire to like go to the gym and like transform your life or be confident or whatever the case is, or do that thing that you really want to do. And you also invalidate yourself by telling yourself, no, you can't do that. You know? So do the things. Action is huge in building confidence, right? So I actually have clients that I hold them accountable of doing these things that they want to do so that they can create the confidence for themselves, right? So like whether it is like journaling every single day, like my clients literally send me messages, check marks every single day. I did my journaling, I did my visualization. And what that does is it creates, right, self-esteem, confidence within you, because now you're in integrity with who you say you are, and you're showing up for yourself, and you're validating yourself and your experiences. So start taking action as your most confident self, because you're also going to see that that is going to transform your life and build your self-worth, because you're building your identity within you rather than anything else. And the last thing I will say is that with this, your sense of identity, your confidence, your self-worth, it can't be outsourced, okay? So if I were to ask you, like, who are you? But don't tell me, like, your job. Don't tell me, you know, you're a mom, or don't tell me you're a girlfriend or you're a daughter. Don't tell me, you know, how old you are. Don't tell me where you grew up. And who are you? You're going to be like, how the fuck do I answer that, right? But you have to be able to answer that. Because who are you? Like, if someone asked me, who am I? And I was like, I'm Katie Garcia. I'm from, you know, I grew up in the Bronx, New York, and then moved to Orlando, Florida. And then I moved to South Florida, and I am a girlfriend, and I'm a daughter, and I'm a confidence coach. Like, that's not really like who I am. Like, I'm not where I grew up. I'm not a girlfriend, right? Like, we cannot base our identity and our worth in these external things. As a coach, I call these labels. You cannot attach yourself to these labels, because you know what happens with labels? Again, it's another dependency. It's another thing that you attach your self-worth to. And labels are ever changing, right? Like, if you attach your self-worth to the fact that you're a girlfriend, then guess what? Labels are ever changing. So if one minute your boyfriend breaks up with you, then what happens to your self-worth? If you always attach yourself to this label of being a girlfriend, and you rooted your identity in being a girlfriend and being a person in his life, and him, when you break up, your self-worth is damaged. Same thing with your job, right? If you are attaching your self-worth to this label of your occupation, whether it's a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever the case is, and one day you get fired from your job, then what happens to your self-worth, right? So it's about detaching from those labels and from those things, and realizing that you are enough as you are. You are not enough because of those things. You are enough just because of the fact that you're breathing and you're existing. And that is the last thing that you need to realize. That your self-worth is not measured. It just comes from the fact that you were born enough. You're intrinsically worthy. When you were created, like, no one asked you, you know, like when you came out of your mother's womb, no one was like, you know, you think you want love, you have to earn love, you know, as a baby when you got out of the hospital. Like, no one was like, you need to earn milk or anything like that, right? Like, that seems so, like, crazy to think about. Like, Same thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a dog person or if you're a cat person, right? Like, if your dog or your cat were to come up to you and they were asking for food, or they were asking for their basic needs, or they were asking for like water, you wouldn't be like, you need to earn water, you need to earn food. Like, it's just inherently known that they deserve food. Just the same way that it's inherently known that we deserve love, we deserve care, we deserve to feel seen, we deserve to be heard, we deserve to be understood. And so it's not fair for us to tell ourselves, oh, well, I need to do something to be good enough. I need to change myself to earn love. I need to be at a certain place in life and in my career and within my finances, and then after that, I'll feel enough. When we are enough now, and we were always enough, and we're intrinsically enough. So you don't have to do, be, or achieve anything to feel enough. And you need to tell that to yourself. And you need to form solid beliefs within your identity that allow you to feel that way. Because babes, you got it. You. And I'm so sorry for everything that you went through. Genuinely. No one deserves to go through what you went through, probably. And I don't know you. But I do know that you're enough. And I do know that when you realize that, when you, I don't know why I turned into like some Spanish guy named Ignacio when I said that. When you realize that, when you realize that, everything in your life is going to change. Everything. Because everything is a direct reflection of your self-worth and your confidence. Everything changes when you know you're worthy. When you know you're worth more, you stop settling because you used to think you were worth less. Now you rise up to different standards. Now you're achieving more. Now your standards are going to increase in your relationships. Now you're going to feel worthy of love. Now you're going to feel like other people like you and accept you for you. Now you're starting to put yourself out there and you're making friends and you're achieving things in your career because you know you're worthy of success. And you truly believe that within yourself. You're not on the hamster wheel anymore. You're not like feeling you have to be productive every single day. Ooh, goodness gracious. It's exhausting. At the end of the day, if you are at a point right now where you're ready to internalize this, you're ready to feel enough, click the link in the description or click the link that is in my bio, because it is a free masterclass where you can learn the step-by-step process of how to build your self-worth and confidence. It's the process that I take all of my one-on-one clients through, and it is insanely helpful. I take them through this exact process inside the Confidence Academy, and it is going to be very, very helpful for you to change your life, to start feeling enough, and to learn more about how you can do that. Because at the end of the day, that's what you deserve. That's what you deserve to know. That's what you deserve to feel is enough. And that's enough of this podcast. I will see you in the next episode. I love you.